The phone is silent, but the room is not. Late afternoon sits against the window of a small apartment in New York City. The sun is going down. The inbox is quiet. The screen is black until your thumb wakes it again. Same motion. Same glass. Same empty space where a notification should be. You are waiting for a call that seems to carry your future inside it. A job. A way out. Rent paid. Respect restored. A different answer when someone asks how things are going. But Epictetus would stop you before the phone rings. He would ask, what has actually happened? Not what you fear. Not what you imagine. Not what your mind has already declared. The event is simple. The phone has not made a sound. The judgment is heavier. This silence means you are being rejected, forgotten, measured, diminished. That second thing is not in the phone. It is in the assent you give. The hard lesson begins here. The call may matter, but it does not govern your ruling faculty. The silence may test you, but it does not own you. The silence may test you, but it does not own you. That distinction is the first wall you have to rebuild. Because when you are waiting for a call that can change your situation, the mind starts smuggling externals into the place where judgment belongs. It says the call is yours. The timing is yours. The opinion on the other end is yours. The decision made in some office, by people you cannot see, after conversations you did not hear, is somehow yours to command. It is not. The phone is in your hand. The outcome is not. The screen is under your thumb. The hiring manager's decision is not. The apartment is quiet. The silence is present. But the meaning of that silence is not yet fixed unless you fix it. This is where Epictetus becomes severe and useful. Some things are up to us. Some things are not. The line is not soft. It is not decorative. It is not something you quote when life is calm and abandon when rent is due. It is the structure of sanity under pressure. What is yours? Your judgment. Your assent. Your intention. Your attention. Your next response. That is the territory you can govern. What is not yours? The hour they call. Whether they call. Whether another candidate looks stronger. Whether the person making the decision had a bad morning. Whether your resume landed well. Whether your reputation in that room is rising, falling, or being forgotten. Whether the city outside your window keeps moving without any concern for your private suspense. None of that is yours. You may influence some of it through preparation, honesty, follow-up, and disciplined conduct. But influence is not control. Effort is not ownership. Preference is not law. The anxious mind hates this. It wants ownership where it only has exposure. It wants certainty where it only has duty. So it reaches for the nearest object that looks controllable. The smartphone. Wake the screen. Check the notifications. Open the email. Close it. Check the signal. Check the volume. Turn the phone over. Pick it up again. The thumb keeps moving because the judgment has already been made. The judgment says, until this phone speaks, I am not safe. That is the error. Not because the job does not matter. It may matter a great deal. A paycheck matters. Health insurance matters. A stable schedule matters. Being able to answer your family without embarrassment matters. No serious Stoic denies the weight of ordinary life. Stoicism is not pretending bills are imaginary. It is not pretending disappointment has no cost. But the cost of an external is not the same as its authority over your character. A job can change your circumstances. It cannot decide whether you meet this hour with reason or surrender. A phone call can open a door. It cannot define the worth of the person standing outside that door. A delayed answer can frustrate your plan. It cannot force you to abandon command over your own attention. Unless you hand it that command. That is what obsessive checking does. It looks like action, but it is often abdication. You are not choosing the next useful step. You are letting the silence dictate motion. You are letting an external pull your eyes, your breathing, your posture, your afternoon, your self-respect. The event is simple, no notification. The impression arrives, this is urgent, personal, threatening. The judgment follows, my value is now suspended inside this silence. Then assent seals the chain. You say yes to it before examining it. You obey it before naming it. You let it sit in the chair of command. Epictetus would not tell you to smash the phone, ignore responsibility, or act as if the call is irrelevant. He would tell you to put each thing in its proper place. The phone is an instrument. The call is an external. The waiting is a circumstance. Your judgment is the place of work. So when your thumb feels the smooth glass again, that is the moment. Not later, after the call. Not when the answer comes. Not when life becomes easier. Right there, with the late sun crossing the apartment floor and the city pressing against the walls, you practice the boundary. You say, this screen is mine to use, not mine to worship. You say, this silence is an event, not a verdict. You say, the next honest action is mine, the result is not. Then you choose something governable. You review the follow-up email without panic. You prepare for another application. You wash the cup in the sink. You step away from the screen for 10 minutes because your attention is not a stray animal. You return to the work still in your hands. This is not passivity. It is command. Passivity is sitting under the rule of what has not happened yet. Command is acting well inside uncertainty. The boundary of control does not remove the pressure. It removes the false throne you gave to the pressure. The phone may ring. It may not. The answer may be yes. It may be no. But before any of that occurs, your ruling faculty is already being tested. The question is not whether the call will obey your preference. The question is whether you will obey an unexamined impression. The question is whether you will obey an unexamined impression. That is where the real contest begins. The phone is still on the table. The late light is thinning across the apartment. The city outside keeps moving. Traffic below, footsteps in the hall, a neighbor's door closing, somebody laughing on the sidewalk as if your future were not hanging in the room. Then the screen stays dark. That is the event. A silent phone. Nothing more has happened. But the mind does not leave it there. It rushes forward. It says, they chose someone else. It says, you sounded weak in the interview. It says, you are back where you started. It says, this is what people will think of you now. The event is small. The story becomes enormous. Epictetus would call this the work of impression. An impression is the first appearance of a thing to the mind. It arrives quickly. It does not ask permission. It wears the face of truth before it has been examined. The silent phone appears as danger. The lack of notification appears as rejection. The smooth glass under your thumb appears to be evidence. But an impression is not yet knowledge. It is an arrival. That distinction matters. The first appearance says, this is urgent. Judgment says, this urgency has authority over me. The first appearance says, this matters. Judgment says, because it matters, I may abandon discipline. The first appearance says, check again. Judgment says, checking again is necessary for safety. Then assent completes the mistake. Assent is the mind saying yes. Not out loud. Not as a formal decision. Usually it is quieter than that. It is the moment you accept the impression as command. The moment your thumb moves before reason speaks. The moment your attention drops to the phone again, not because a useful action is required, but because the silence has been permitted to rule. This is why obsessive checking is not harmless. It trains allegiance. Each time you wake the screen without purpose, you practice the belief that peace must come from the device. Each time you refresh the inbox without reason, you teach the ruling faculty to wait outside its own house. Each time you treat silence as proof, you surrender judgment to an external. The phone did not force that surrender. The silence did not force it. The impression invited it. You agreed. That is hard to admit, but it is also where freedom begins. If the whole problem were the phone, you would be helpless until it rang. If the whole problem were the employer, you would be helpless until they decided. If the whole problem were the market, the rent, the city, the competition, the economy, then your inner life would belong entirely to things outside your command. Epictetus refuses that. He does not say externals are fake. He says they are not sovereign over the faculty that judges them. A job offer is an external. So is a rejection. So is delay. So is another person's opinion. So is the reputation you imagine forming in their mind. These things can affect your circumstances. They can require action. They can bring consequences. But they do not enter the ruling faculty unless judgment opens the door. So the discipline is not to feel nothing. The discipline is to examine before agreement. The phone is silent. Pause. Name the impression. It appears to me that this silence means rejection. Good. Now you have separated appearance from fact. Then ask, do I know this? No. Is this within my control? No. What is within my control? My judgment. My assent. My intention. My attention. My next response. This is not a trick. It is not a line to soothe yourself. It is an act of government. You are taking back the office that belongs to you. The mind will protest. It will say, but this is important. Answer plainly. Importance does not cancel reason. It will say, but I need to know. Answer plainly. Needing an outcome does not give you ownership of its timing. It will say, but I cannot relax until they call. Answer plainly. Then you have made your steadiness a prisoner of another person's schedule. That is the value error. You have inflated the external above the ruling faculty. You have given the call more authority than choice. You have treated the notification as if it could pronounce your worth, your safety, your permission to stand upright. It cannot. The call may tell you whether you got the job. It cannot tell you whether you are capable of self-command. The call may change what you do next week. It cannot decide whether you act with dignity this afternoon. The call may bring relief or disappointment. It cannot force you to confuse an event with a verdict. So return to the exact point of assent. Your thumb touches the screen. Feel the glass. Notice the impulse. Do not rush to obey it. The texture under your thumb is not an order. It is only sensation. The dark screen is not an argument. It is only a dark screen. Let the impression stand before you like a messenger. Do not crown it as a king. You can check the phone at a chosen time. You can send a follow-up when it is proper. You can prepare another application. You can make dinner. You can clean the table. You can sit upright in the silence without letting the silence write your judgment for you. This is the hard lesson in assent. The mind is not defeated when an impression appears. It is defeated when it says yes without examination. It is defeated when it says yes without examination. So the training must begin before the phone rings. That is the point of ascesis. Not escape from the room. Not escape from the pressure. Training inside the exact scene where the pressure appears. The small apartment. The late afternoon. The sun dropping behind buildings. The smartphone close enough to reach without thinking. The thumb already knowing the path to the screen. This is where practice belongs. Not in an ideal morning when everything is settled. Not in a calm hour after the decision has arrived. You do not train assent after the impression has already taken command. You train at the doorway. The first exercise is simple. Delay. When the impulse rises to check again, do not obey it immediately. Stop for one breath. Not a dramatic breath. Not a performance. One deliberate pause between impression and movement. That pause is not small. It is the space where slavery can end. The impression says, check now. You answer, appearances are not orders. The impulse says, you need to know. You answer, I need to judge correctly. The fear says, this silence means something. You answer, it may mean many things, and I do not yet know. Then place the phone down with intention. Face up or face down does not matter as much as the reason. If you turn it over because you are terrified of seeing nothing, the phone still commands you. If you set it down because you have chosen a time to check and chosen a task before that time, then you are governing your attention. This is ascesis. The second exercise is naming. Say inwardly, with precision, an impression has appeared. Do not say, I am doomed. Do not say, they are ignoring me. Do not say, my life is falling apart. Those are judgments disguised as reports. Say what is true. The phone is silent. I expected a call. My mind is treating the silence as rejection. My thumb wants to check again. Now the situation has been separated into parts. Event. Impression. Judgment. Impulse. Choice. This is how the ruling faculty gets its office back. The untrained mind fuses everything together. Silent phone, lost job, unpaid rent, disappointed family, damaged reputation, wasted effort, future collapse. It makes one mass out of many different things. Then it bows to the mass as if it were fate. Break the mass apart. The phone is not the rent. The silence is not the rejection. The rejection, if it comes, is not your worth. Your worth is not the opinion of a stranger in an office. Your duty in this hour is not to control the call. Your duty is to keep judgment clean while waiting. The third exercise is chosen action. After you name the impression, do one thing that belongs to you. Not 10 things. Not a grand reinvention of your life. One governable action. Open the document where you track applications and update it. Draft a calm follow-up for tomorrow, not a needy one today. Review the next opportunity. Wash the plate in the sink. Stand up and stretch your back. Make food. Step to the window and let the city be the city without asking it to confirm your value. The action matters because attention needs direction. If you do not assign it to what is yours, it will be pulled by what is not yours. This is why discipline is practical. It is not an attitude floating above life. It is the hand choosing not to unlock the screen. It is the eye returning to the page. It is the body standing up instead of folding over the device. It is the sentence you refuse to send because it comes from panic rather than reason. You are not training for comfort. You are training for command. Epictetus would not ask whether the waiting feels good. It does not. He would ask whether the waiting has made you less honest, less steady, less responsible, less capable of acting according to reason. That is the examination. Did the silence make you reckless? Did the lack of notification make you invent facts? Did the uncertainty make you neglect what still belongs to you? Did the phone become an altar where your attention was sacrificed every 2 minutes? Answer without self-pity. Answer without drama. Then correct the next movement. The fourth exercise is measured checking. You may need the phone. The phone is not evil. The problem is not the object. The problem is false authority. So use it as an instrument. Set a clear interval. Check at a chosen time. When you check, check. Then stop. Do not refresh 6 times as if repetition could manufacture reality. Do not stare at the empty notification bar as if your gaze could pull the future closer. Do not let the thumb keep moving after the task is complete. Use the phone. Then return it to its place. The fifth exercise is inward refusal. Refuse the hidden belief that your life is suspended until another person speaks. Refuse the belief that uncertainty excuses disorder. Refuse the belief that attention must follow fear. This refusal is not loud. It is practiced in small obedience to reason. You sit in the late afternoon and keep the boundary. The phone remains what it is. The call remains outside your command. The next action remains yours. And each time you do this, you weaken the old habit. Not by winning the outcome. By governing the assent. By governing the assent, you return to responsibility. Not control over the result. Responsibility for your conduct inside the result's uncertainty. This is where many people confuse Stoicism with withdrawal. They hear the outcome is not yours and imagine a person doing nothing, caring about nothing, making no effort, sending no email, preparing no next step. That is not discipline. That is laziness wearing philosophy's coat. Epictetus does not excuse you from duty. He assigns duty to its proper place. You are a job seeker in a small apartment, waiting for a call that may change the next part of your life. Your duty is not to command another person's decision. Your duty is to act as someone worthy of trust before the decision arrives. That means your conduct still matters. Your resume should be honest. Your follow-up should be measured. Your calendar should be kept. Your next application should not be neglected because one phone has gone silent. Your speech should remain clean when a friend texts, "Any news?" Your posture should not collapse into resentment against people who have not yet answered. The world may delay. You do not have permission to become disorderly because the world delays. Look at the phone again. It is still only an object. Glass, metal, light, battery, signal. It can carry a call. It can carry an email. It can carry silence. It cannot carry your obligation for you. The obligation remains with the ruling faculty. So ask the practical question, what would a responsible person do in this room, before knowing the outcome? Not what would a frightened person repeat. Not what would a desperate person refresh. Not what would a proud person pretend. A responsible person separates tasks from fantasies. The task may be to check whether the phone is charged. Do it once. The fantasy is to keep checking battery life as if charge level were destiny. Refuse it. The task may be to make sure the ringer is on. Do it once. The fantasy is to test the volume again and again as if sound could summon the call. Refuse it. The task may be to send a follow-up after a proper interval. Draft it with respect. The fantasy is to send 3 anxious messages trying to pull certainty out of another person. Refuse it. The task may be to continue the search. Open the next listing. Adjust the cover letter. Submit the next honest application. The fantasy is to freeze the entire afternoon because this one answer has been treated as the gatekeeper of your worth. Refuse it. Responsibility is not panic with better manners. Responsibility is ordered action. You owe yourself that order. You owe it to the people who depend on you. You owe it to the work you are trying to enter. You owe it even to the person who may call, because if the call comes, your answer should come from readiness, not from a mind that has spent hours kneeling before the screen. And if the call does not come, your conduct still remains. This is the point most people miss. They think the result will decide whether the waiting was wasted. No. The waiting already contains material for character. Every silent minute asks what you serve. The notification, or reason. The imagined opinion of strangers, or the faculty that judges impressions. Fear, or duty. The late sun continues to fall. The apartment grows dimmer. Maybe the dishes are still in the sink. Maybe the table is crowded with notes from the interview. Maybe your shoes are near the door from the morning when you tried to look calm, prepared, employable. Good. Begin there. Put one thing in order. Not because order guarantees the job. It does not. Not because a clean table will persuade the hiring manager. It will not. But because your part of the world should not be abandoned while you wait for someone else to move. This is a hard lesson for anyone living under pressure. Bills make people hurry. Reputation makes people perform. Uncertainty makes people bargain with every sound in the room. But pressure does not cancel duty. It reveals whether duty has been trained. The phone buzzes sometimes for nothing. A promotion. A spam message. A weather alert. Each false sound exposes the mind. It leaps. It hopes. It collapses. Then it reaches again. Do not hate the mind for leaping. Correct it. Say, this is not my master. Then return to the next responsible act. You may be disappointed later. You may need to start again. You may have to answer family with plain words, I have not heard yet. You may have to face another morning of applications, interviews, and uncertainty. Fine. Then face it without adding cowardice to difficulty. The world can make the path steep. It cannot require you to crawl inwardly. Other people can withhold an answer. They cannot force you to make their delay the ruler of your attention. A call can fail to come. It cannot command you to become careless with the hour you still possess. Conduct is the proof. Not the speech you make about Stoicism. Not the quote you admire. Not the calm image you want others to see. The proof is whether, in the small apartment, with the phone silent and the future unclear, you still do what belongs to you. You keep judgment clean. You keep action honest. You keep attention under command. That is responsibility before the result. That is responsibility before the result. And that is where freedom begins. Not after the call. Not after the offer. Not after someone finally says yes. If your freedom depends on the phone ringing, then your freedom has already been transferred to the phone. Epictetus would not let you make that trade. The small apartment remains. The sun has nearly gone. The screen still waits in your hand, smooth under the thumb, ready to be awakened again. But now you know the real decision is not hidden inside the device. The real decision is whether you will give assent to the first appearance. The silence says nothing until judgment speaks for it. The delay does not name you. The missing notification does not measure you. The employer's timing may affect your schedule, your bills, your next step. It does not govern the faculty that chooses how to meet this hour. So meet it plainly. Check when checking is proper. Act when action is yours. Wait without kneeling to what is outside your command. Prepare the next step without bitterness. Answer uncertainty with order. Answer pressure with examined judgment. If the call comes, receive it as an external. If the call does not come, receive that too as an external. Then return to the only work that has always been yours, to see clearly, to judge honestly, to assent carefully, and to conduct yourself with discipline. The phone may stay silent. You do not have to become silent inside your own command. Return to what is yours to govern.